Audio is one of the most overlooked aspects of video editing, yet it has the power to completely transform an edit. Whether it's the subtle hum of a background noise, the precision of sound effects, or the emotional pull of a perfectly chosen soundtrack, audio is just as important as the visuals. Today, we'll dive into how audio enhances storytelling and the technical strategies that bring sound to life in post-production. All of that and more right here on Render Time. Welcome back to Render Time. I'm Carrie Goodison, a video editor here at MarketScale, and today we're talking about something that often goes unnoticed but makes all the difference in video editing, and that's audio. Today, I'm joined by Jason Harthcock and Luke Davis, two of my fellow MarketScale editors, who also happen to be experts on all things audio. Jason is an expert in the technical aspects of editing audio, things like mixing, leveling, and fixing bad audio. And Luke focuses more on the storytelling and emotional impact of audio, how music, pacing, and sound design affect how an edit feels. Jason, I believe this is your debut on Render Time, so welcome. And Luke, welcome back.
Thank you.
So before we jump in, can each of you just introduce yourselves with what you do and just give a little bit of background on how long you've been editing?
I'm a self-taught video editor, and I've been editing since I was 16 years old, just doing music videos and, just little fun stuff for myself, and professionally been doing it for about 2.5 years now. I've been a professional audio engineer, musician, and producer since I was 17. I've worked in a lot of studios, went to school for it, and I've just been playing music and working with audio since I was really young.
Yeah, and I'm Luke, and I'm also a video editor with MarketScale. Been with MarketScale about 3.5 years, I think, and that was my first professional gig editing, but I have been editing videos since high school as well, just doing narrative film and making short films with my friends, and now I get to do it for a living.
Awesome. So before we get into the specifics of your expertise, let's just talk about audio's role in video editing as a whole. So this is a question for both of you. Whoever wants to answer first, go right ahead. Audio is often considered half of the experience in a video. So why do you think that sound is just as important as the visuals? And do you think that editors sometimes underestimate the impact of audio?
Well, to start off, immersion and clarity. There's nothing worse than popping up a video that has good visuals and then you just hear really bad audio. As Luke knows, it's a lifeline to the story as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that bad audio can be just as jarring as bad visuals. And great audio can enhance mediocre footage. We see it all the time in documentary and video essay type stuff. It's a great fix to something that would otherwise be mediocre footage.
So, Jason, I'm going to ask you this one directly, just since you're more focused on the technical side of editing audio. Let's just start with the fundamentals. When you're handed a project, what are the first things that you listen for in the raw audio, and what first steps do you take in order to clean it up?
First, I'll just analyze the audio for any pops and clicks, any distortion, and then room noise. The first steps I take to clean it up is I usually run it into my DAW. I use Logic Pro and Pro Tools, and I'll use, industry standard plugins from Waves, Isotope, or Universal Audio. A lot of times I'll just do very simple denoise and de-reverb in there, and then compression, EQ, and then I'll take it from there and I'll usually put it into some kind of AI tool just to boost up the sound quality, background noise, and all that. It's kind of hard to get rid of all of that without using AI. So there's only so much I can do. So it's like kind of a prep.
So, Jason, audio mixing can definitely be a challenge for us editors, especially when we're balancing dialogue, music, sound effects. What are some common mistakes that you see editors make when mixing all these aspects of audio together?
Putting music too loud during voiceovers, fading the voiceover in, the music out when the voice comes in, before or after. It should be kind of like a duck down, maybe like a little before a little ramp down and then kind of blending into it.
Luke, moving on to more of the storytelling side of editing audio, how do you decide what kind of music or sound effects are going to fit your edit? What's your thought process throughout that?
So I think everyone might be a little different on this, but the way that I do it is I always just build around the soundbite, right? So the first thing that I do is I clip out whatever the soundbite is going to be. I get it really as tight as possible. I don't worry about a lot of cuts because we can always get B-roll over it. And then before I even worry about how it looks, I bring the music in under the soundbite and I listen to it without even watching any of the footage. I just listen to it, and that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to sound. So I know how the video is going to sound before I even start bringing in B-roll, sound effects, doing color correction. I know how it will sound. And maybe I'll do a little bit of tidy work at the very end. But when I know how it sounds, I know how it should look. Mm-hmm. Because it helps me visualize the things that I should bring in. As far as the type of music that I use, it's entirely contingent on the soundbite. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see, I don't know, mistake, this is all personal preference, but one of the things that personally I don't like to see in a lot of videos is an oversaturation of electronic music. Corporate music, electronic, like do-do-do-do-do, that kind of bubbly fun, inoffensive. No one could be perturbed by it. No one could ever possibly be excited about this music because it's easy to use. And I've seen it as a quick fix, one size fits all type of method to glaze over any sort of video. I don't think that's right. I think that music is appropriate for some videos, but you need to listen to the soundbite and think about, what are we talking about? Are we launching something? If we're launching something, great. Let's use some electronic music. Let's use excitement. But are we talking about our team? Are we talking about our history? Then if that's the case, let's use something cinematic. Let's use something nostalgic. Let's be mindful about what your people are talking about, and pick the appropriate music.
Yeah, I think we all have the same 3 songs that we're thinking of when we type in corporate presentation or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. That Endless Desert. Not to name drop, but Endless Desert is one that I hear all the time, and it's like, all right, let's try something else here.
I wonder if Balloon Planet goes out on corporate event gigs.
Yeah.
Totally. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, totally.
So speaking of music, editing to music is a skill in and of itself. Luke, can you talk a little bit about the importance of pacing when cutting to a soundtrack and how it affects the audience's emotions?
Yeah, I think someone has a quote. I don't know exactly who, but I heard a really good quote. Sound is the way that we decorate time, or music is the way that we decorate time. So pacing is everything in music. And like I said, we take that sound bite and we think about, what are we doing here? Are we building anticipation? Are we getting people excited? And if that's the case, then you want to use something that has a big crescendo, a drop, an electronic song that has an explosion. And then that's like a tension build and then a release, because that's what we're doing in this video. We're releasing something. And that's how you do a video like that. But then if you're doing something that's more reflective, relaxed, and laid back, then you don't need to rush into it like that. You sort of build it out gradually. A lot of things that we have, because we grew up, maybe some people watching this don't remember, but there used to be TV in the house that would be playing. And a lot of times you wouldn't be watching, but you would hear it. And you would kind of know what's on the TV based on how it sounds. And so if you know how something sounds, you kind of have an innate sense, or you should, for how it should look.
So this is a question for both of you. We've all been in a situation where we're editing something and we're dealing with audio that is just less than perfect, to put it nicely, or just plain terrible. So what are your strategies that you guys have for salvaging that terrible audio?
Jason, you're the master on this, and then I'll talk about my little tricks after.
So one thing to keep in mind is not one piece of audio is the same as the other. So you can't approach every single piece of audio like you approached the last. For me, I'm experimenting a lot because the way a tool will respond to one piece of dialogue, for example, will respond completely different to another. We use 3 different AI tools that I know of: 11 Labs, Adobe Enhance, and Ophonic. So Ophonic and Adobe Enhance in particular, I think, are the best ones, but they're not going to do the same job on audio A compared to audio B. So you kind of have to just experiment, is kind of my whole point. You can't just, there's not a one fix for all. So like today, for example, I've worked on audio restoration for a project that had super distorted audio, tons of background noise. It was almost incoherent, so I had to go in there and I had to boost the volume. Then I had to do a noise cleanup, and then I had to do declicking cleanup, and then I had to compress it, and then I had to EQ it before I even thought about touching AI. And then I ran it through AI, and then I came back and put it back in the box, and I did a round of some of the same tools to get rid of, noise, distortion. So really, there's no one size fits all.
Yeah. So my little trick, because I know about the Adobe Podcast Enhance, but obviously and the Aphonic, but obviously as far as the technical side, I'm not quite as skilled as Jason. But one trick that I like to do, if you have a botched portion of a sound bite, but you still have all the interviews and the mics were good for it, the interviews sound good, but maybe somebody got interrupted or maybe the mic cut out for a second, is you can transcribe the entire interview portion of the shoot and get a transcript of every word that was said on mic during that shoot. And then you can search for that word that you need. And chances are you'll be able to find it from another part of the shoot. And then you can just clip it out and bring it into the spot that you need. And it usually works pretty well. So that's my little tip for editors who are dealing with maybe a botched soundbite.
And you'll always have to cover it with B-roll, though.
Of course.
And another little trick, though, I would like to, put in is, let's say that you have some nice audio. It has a little bit of room tone, but, for some reason their mic dips and you have to restore just a section. Then you can restore that section and then go grab some ambient noise from like the end or beginning of the clip and put it under that. So then you can, keep the vibe of the voiceover and just make it sound kind of whole.
Since we're talking about audio or the Adobe Enhance tool, I'm just curious because I've heard you talk about this before, Jason. When using the tool, a lot of people use the new version, which is within Premiere, but then some people are still using the browser version. What are your thoughts on the difference between the internal Premiere version and the browser version? Because I know I have my opinion on it. I prefer to use browser just because when you're cutting, it has to re-enhance every single clip that you do with each cut. But what are your thoughts on that?
Never use the inside Premiere version. Always use the browser version. There's something with the algorithm that's different and it just comes out cleaner. And sometimes the new version of Adobe Enhance will do better than Ophonic. I've seen that on quite a few cases lately, but anytime I have to go into a project and fix up some audio that an editor has used Adobe Enhance inside Premiere, I have to completely wipe it out and go another route.
Yeah, agreed.
The audio, it'll come back and someone will complain about the audio.
Yeah. The main thing for me is just how many times it has to re-enhance with each cut. And I've also taken over revisions from other editors before where I'll open the project and it's like, let's say it's like an hour-long podcast. It has to re-enhance every single clip. And I don't think it enhances the same way every single time. Yeah, so it's always sounds a little bit different. And that drives me crazy. So I was just curious.
It should be illegal to use.
Yeah. So whoever wants to go first, do you guys have an example of a project where the audio throughout that you used, sound effects, music, or just cleaning it up altogether made a significant difference in how the piece was received? Or maybe just some of your favorite audio editing work?
Yeah. There was a video for a client that was 15 minutes long, and the editor who had worked on it before me used one song for the entire 15 minutes. I did the other video for that series, and the DMS on the account liked the video, and they said, can you do that for this video? And so I went in and I sort of, I spruced up a couple things, but mostly what I did was I added different songs, and I incorporated transitions every time a song would change. And it made the video go by a lot faster. We don't want to feel like we're watching one of the biggest compliments I get, and this is back to pacing. If someone says oh, that didn't feel like it was that long. Oh, that didn't feel like it was 15 minutes. That's a big compliment for an editor,
Yeah.
And I think the way that we do that, and the reason that a 15-minute video feels so long if it has one song is it feels like this is just one thing. And when you break it out into different sections there's, now we're talking about the engine, not to give away what it is, but now we're talking about the engine. So we have this song, this is a section, and then we transition into a different song and a different part of the vehicle. It just makes it feel like we're taking this piece by piece, one thing at a time, instead of we got to watch a 15-minute video. It's we're talking about, maybe I'll just watch the engine part. Oh, there's a cool transition to get into the, the side paneling or whatever.
Yeah, more of a story rather than just watching a presentation.
Right. And I was really inspired by, I don't know if you ever saw Hot Ones, where they eat the show with hot questions and even hotter wings.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking
And they get the celebrities on and they eat hot wings. And that show, I like that show a lot because every time they do a new sauce, they have a new song, and it sort of crescendos to this bit. Crescendo is a big thing, building to something, and it crescendos to the hottest sauce, and then the guys are getting their butt kicked on the show because they can't handle it. But then at the end, they always do something sentimental. Now we're on the other side, and it's like an experience. It's like we made it, and now the cinematic, nice, peaceful music shows that we've been on this journey, and now we're on the other side. And I used that. I just totally ripped that off for this video. That was a speaker video where it's the speakers and they're scary. And he tells a nice story about a guy he worked with. And it's oh, this was actually a lot of fun.
For me, I experience it every day. So as soon as I get into an edit, the first thing I do is clean up the audio. Because with bad audio, it's just it's jarring to me, no matter how insignificant it is, So, I would suggest that everyone does the audio restoration first, clean up the audio. And I think that goes a long way for, the DMSs and the clients when they hear crisp, clean dialogue. It's going to be a smoother ride, from start to finish, if you can listen to the audio and not wonder like, oh, what's that weird noise in the background? Or, it sounds like he's in a church cathedral right now, that kind of stuff. So, I experience it every day with just clean audio.
So for video editors who don't have a strong background in audio, what's the best piece of advice that you could give to them to immediately improve their sound design?
Train your ears to hear bad audio. And after you do any restoration, train your ears some more. Go through it and be like, does this sound right? Does this bother me?
Yeah.
If this sounds wonky, then it's wonky and everyone can hear it.
Totally.
So, and from there, just, do a little research, experiment, experiment with the AI tools we have. Also, Premiere has tons of audio tools. I don't think they're always the greatest audio tools. I'll use like an EQ and a hard limiter is the only audio tools I use in Premiere, but they're there at your disposal. So get in there and mess around with them, listen and see what they do. And, it might open up some doors to where you start to understand the tools you have in front of you and how you can use them.
Yeah. I think that's great what Jason said. I really couldn't have put it better myself. Just be honest with yourself, listen back to your videos, and when you export a video and you don't even want to watch it, you're like, it's probably something wrong with it. So do the work. Don't be lazy. As far as whatever I could add on to that, because I'm coming from the storytelling side of this, I think watch a lot of videos that aren't the type of videos that we would traditionally do. I mentioned Hot Ones. I didn't think that we would do a video that would be anything like Hot Ones. And it's not like the video that we did was necessarily like it, but because I knew Hot Ones, I was like, this is how a 15 or 20-minute video should pace out music wise.
Yeah.
So just like take different influences. Don't, get off your phone and watch a movie. And I think it'll help improve the pacing and the storytelling and the quality of song that you pick.
Audio is half the battle.
It really is, yeah. And definitely watch and listen to those exports. That is one thing that I learned is don't export and then just send it off. If it's like something where I'm like really focusing on the audio, I listen with headphones and then I listen without headphones just because you never know.
Yeah.
They can sound a little bit different in different speakers.
Yeah, I always I'll listen to it with the headphones, but then I'll listen to it on the computer because I'll be like, maybe they'll watch it on the computer, and then I'll maybe even listen to it on my phone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and look at it dead on and actually address the problems, and then go in and tool around with the stuff that Jason told you about, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I watch my exports 3 times: before I export, after I export, and then after I upload. And sometimes I will catch stuff after I upload and have to get it resent back before the DMS.
Yeah, the worst time to catch it.
3, you're probably not going to miss something.
Yeah.
That's smart. I need to start doing it that way because, there's definitely been things where I'm like, okay, I swear I watched the export. I don't know what happened here, but it happens. So any final thoughts from either of you on the subject?
Take time to learn and there's tons of resources out there. YouTube, if you have a question on audio and how to do something, you can get on there and search it real quick and just take time to elevate the audio game,
Yeah, and I think also just trust your instincts. Like you if you're a video editor, there's a reason that you are, and what sounds good probably. And so it's like when you're doing color correction, it's the same thing. Like, you can go by like, technically these are all leveled out, but it doesn't look right. And at the end of the day, your eye is your eye, and your eye sees what it sees. and all the metrics can be straight on the computer. But if it looks weird, it's going to look weird. So trust your eyes and trust your ears.
Yeah, and I would say also, if anyone has any questions, just shoot me a message through Tech Tips on Discord, and I'm happy to answer any audio questions along the way. Technical audio questions.
No storytelling.
Yeah, no. Don't ask me anything technical.
So Jason and Luke, thank you so much for being here today. This has been a great conversation. Audio is such a crucial part of video editing, and I think editors will take away some great tips from today's episode.
My pleasure. Thank you, Carrie.
Yep, thanks.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Market Scale creator community so you don't miss the next one. And remember, great editing isn't just seen, it's heard. So keep pushing your edits to the next level and make every second count.